Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark, DJ Solitaire here with episode 101, good old 101 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I share in every episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. So we have tipped over past 100 episodes, and this episode is going to mark the beginning of the exploration of music that I first came across in the autumn of 1997 through to the summer of 1998. So we spent quite a while on the 96 to 97 season. Uh, as always, there's just, there's unfortunately too much great music that I just don't have the time to cover. And so, eventually I'll be going back and exploring some tracks that haven't been included. But it's really time to move on to another pivotal season where there was just such an exploration and a shift and evolution in the kinds of music that was being produced, not just production techniques, but really musically in terms of the kinds of content. And this was a really important time for me. I was wrapping up, I was in the last 4 or 5 months of my time in the UK before moving back to Japan, which itself turned into quite an adventure. And this track kind of bridges the whole thing. This is just one of the most important tracks for me. It was one of the all-time great tracks of the time. And y'all know I love stories, and there is such a story behind when I first heard this one, how I, really had to work to get my hands on a copy when I kind of didn't know what I was looking for. I'll explain. And then what happened when I finally did get it. And if you've heard any of my sets recently, you've heard me play this. So I'm going to start with a story without telling you still about what the track is. So at some point, I think it was late September or early October. I was, in the UK. I was still feeling, kind of not really moving ahead in the way that I wanted to. Knew great people, was really well connected, but there's no gigs, there was no, I was still a beginner at the time, but I just found the community wasn't quite as cohesive as I wanted, and although I did have my peeps. And so I one day I just happened to go to a Japanese shop, and they had this free Japanese magazine, and on the back of it, it said the Japan Airlines was offering 3-day tickets to Tokyo for £99, which is an insane deal. Like a Friday to Sunday, Friday to Monday, to spend a weekend in Japan. So I was in downtown London. So basically, this was before real cell phones. I did have a cell phone actually, 1997, but it was before those became in common use and there's no texting. Uh, I marched over to the Dragonfly office uh, where Richard Purple was working at the time. And I said, come with me, we're going to Japan. And we walked to a travel agent and we bought our £99 tickets to Japan. Details could sort themselves out later. What were we going to do? Where were we going to stay? All of that sort of stuff. We just went and dropped the cash and bought our tickets. So that took place mid-November. So what ended up happening is my friend Jeff from Tokushima, really cool guy. He's the one who introduced me to Seb Taylor, aka Shakta. He arranged a party for me at this place in Roppongi. It had like not a straight line in it, so it was very feng shui, called Vitamin Q. So he and I played this nighttime party there, and then Jane, the great old Goa gal from the UK, who was friends with Richard, arranged the after party that Richard played at. And so it was quite a stretch. It was quite an adventurous story, and it was really wonderful. Um, Richard played at a club called The Urge, which was right next to a department store called Life. And as my friend Carla so beautifully put it when we walked there, she's like, "Forget Life, let's go straight to The Urge." And we did, and it was great. And Richard played, the dance floor was under a string pyramid. It was amazing. My party was this tiny little thing, but it was like completely off the hook. Tsuyoshi happened to have a weekend off, so he showed up, Masa, Rike, and just a whole bunch of like underground party crews. Some of my friends who, had started going to parties with in 94, 95, who were still in Japan. So it was a lot of fun. But I didn't want to go back. I really miss Japan. So I decided to ditch the return portion of my ticket to stay in Japan a little bit and bought a very expensive one-way return for a couple of weeks later. So I went down to Tokushima to spend some time with Jeff, and he was going to be playing at a party in Osaka. And on the lineup were Keisuke, who didn't end up playing, and Dick, Trevor, and Steph from Total Eclipse. So I think I had met Dick on New Year's Eve. Yeah, it was the New Year's Eve before. So I had actually met him, but didn't know each other particularly well. And Steph, I think this might have been the first time that I met him. Now we would become very close because we both ended up a few months later moving to Japan the same week. There's going to be more on that. But when Steph played, so Dick played, his good old kind of clunky high energy stuff. The crowd was going completely ballistic. And then Steph gets on, and every track, one after another, it was a DJ set, right? Wasn't it just a Total Eclipse set? Just one track after another. The crowd is completely melting down. And then there's this track that he just starts off, and there's a slow beginning, and there's just all voices and sounds, and the crowd is already like hyped up and completely going ballistic. And then the track just kaboom, it just explodes. And I was like, okay, don't want to do that whole run up to the DJ and see what's playing, but I was like, I need to know what this is. And he holds up a DAT and just points on there, and it says Delta. What is this? This is not as a child. So that was all it said, right? No track title or anything. So anyway, I was completely, transfixed by this track. And I mean, the crowd was just so wild that Steph had to hide behind the DJ booth afterwards because they were going completely ballistic. So that was fun. And I get back to London eventually, probably a week or so later, and I am asking everybody, what is this Delta track? There's a new Delta track. And I go to the Twisted office, and Simon Holton, the manager there, who I was on very good terms with, he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got this Delta track. It's a Johan, remix of Johan Stranded." And I put it on. I was like, "No, that's not it." He said, "Come on, yeah, that's good." No, that's not the one. That's not the one. It was a different track. And he's like, "You can have this one if you want." I was like, "Okay, but I want this other track." And then I was at a Christmas, no, it was a winter solstice party at Dragonfly Studios. The only time I ever ended up at the Dragonfly Studios. I have no idea why. And I remember I was dancing with Mark Allen was there. He wasn't DJing, or at least at that point when he was on the dance floor, he wasn't. And somebody played Stranded. And I was saying, okay, so, everybody's going on about this Delta track, but there's another Delta track. It's like, oh, this is the only one I know of. It's like, but there's another one. There's another one. And nobody knew what the freaking track was. It was driving me crazy. Right. So we're already here. That was November before, then we're in December here. And by February, I would be leaving the UK, and in March, moving back to Japan. Things were just, not moving ahead in the way that I needed to. And I was obsessed. I was starting to get a lot of music. I'll be talking about, at this point, like I just got promos from everyone. Somebody connected me with someone at Blue Room who got me some incredible promos. And it was first time ever that had happened, and so on. And so I started getting a lot of stuff, but nothing on this Delta. And I just keep asking everybody, what's happening. And eventually, I don't know where it was, but I spoke to Jez from Laughing Buddha. I was like, oh, I've got some like Blue Room promo vinyl that's got some killer Delta track on it. It's like, what? Yeah, and I'm not sure if at this point I'd heard that the title of the track was Traveling at the Speed of Thought. But my thoughts started traveling pretty fast. And I was like, okay, I seriously need to get this track. He's like, yeah, you can come over and get it. It was literally 11 p.m. my last night in the UK when I got the track from him. We have this expression in English, at the 11th hour, at the last minute. It was literally then. And so we copied it. If he had it on a DAT, and you could hear there's a little bit of vinyl clicking. So it was copied from a vinyl. But it's like, this is the track. And Hector, from the DJ from Twisted, a DJ named Toast, he was over there. He was very close with Ches also. And I literally had, I hung out a bit, got the track, and I had to hop downstairs. It was right above a train station that took me right to my mother's cousin's place in the suburbs where I was spending the last couple of nights, and then poofed it off to the airport the next morning with this track on DAT, finally. So this was a rarity, right? Remember, in December of that year, Mark Allen still didn't know what track I was talking about. So I land in Vancouver. I'm spending 3 weeks there, and then I ended up with this fellow who I'd met in the summer of '96. Now he was really into more housey, techie kind of stuff. There was no Goa around, and as soon as I played him some stuff, he basically said to me, "I will do whatever it is in my power to help you get this music to as many people as possible." So that was before he moved to London. I come back to Japan. He's been, fully transformed. I mean, musically, he was still into his thing, but he was very, very open and really into the spiritual side of the whole, party mindset and so on. And so he was arranging a couple of parties outside of the Vancouver Art Gallery, street level, where on a Sunday afternoon, as a protest to Canadian involvement in somewhere in the Gulf. I think I have to look up historical events, but there was something going on. And the art gallery actually offered their power supply. I mean, and they literally got permits to have these parties. And he asked me on March 15th, Sunday, March 15th, Ides of March. This is the day Julius Caesar died. It's a famous Shakespearean line, "Beware the Ides of March." So I played the closing set, 4 tracks. And of course, I ended on this one. And the skies opened. It was beautiful, sunny. It was sunny, and then it was cloudy. And then all of a sudden, the second I start this track, there's these raindrops start coming. And as soon as the track opens up, it's downpour, and everybody was going ballistic. And 3 people were filming. And I'm not able to find the source of the video. I know the video did exist of this particular part of that party, but don't have that. Now, 2 days before that, 2 days before that, Friday the 13th, full moon, Solstice, who eventually became a big outfit in Japan. The 2 guys behind that, primary guys behind that, Chika and Akira, were living in Vancouver, and they were also moving to Tokyo the same week. So they'd been throwing small parties in the Vancouver area, and they had their farewell party. And, I met up with them, and Chika heard, I don't know how I mentioned it, that I've got this Delta track. He's like, "You have that Delta track?" He's like, can I borrow your dad? Can I play it at the party? Okay, sure. So I lend it to him, and he plays it at this party. It was this underground party. I mean, it was completely off the hook. And the place explodes, of course. Now I'm, in full party mode and everything, but I'm also very clear. I want my dad back. And I was like, "Oh, where's Chico? I don't see Chico." And so I sort of, went back afterwards, went back into the parking lot, and he was loading up the car with some stuff. They said, "Hey, I need that dad back." I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know. Let me see where it is. Let me see. I can get it back to you in a couple of days." And it was like, "I know what's going on here. You're not getting that track from me." I was like, no, you can just find the DAT right now. That's fine. I'll take it now. And he, sheepishly found the DAT and gave me the tape back. So yeah, so this was a hot commodity. By the time I landed in Tokyo, I think it was just Tsuyoshi and me that had this. Possibly another 1 or 2. Dan showed up for a party, played with Total Eclipse. Actually, that famous party that was released on Sun Trip at the Liquid Room in April '98. So he DJ'd there. He played the track in his DJ set. And this just became one of my signature tunes. So long preamble, but just so you know, I mean, the effort that it took to find this track, this was part of the whole adventure back then. It was not just the click and download, or there was always a story involved with how you got the music, and I think it added richness. There's something about this track that was just magical, that hit me the moment I heard it. And I had the opportunity to meet with Marcus from Extreme later in that year in Japan. So I think it was December 98. There was a party he was playing at. It was the first time I met him, and I just had to say, listen, that Delta track. And he's like, yeah, that's a really special one. It really is. So there is so much to this track. And when I presented as a child in the previous season, as I mentioned, that was not initially my favorite track, but everybody went wild. But there's the choral voices in that one. I never really quite made the connection and the beauty, because that was a kind of a rougher track for me, between those choral voices and the ones that we find in this one. But I just consider this to be an absolutely magical, mystical, full power one. Now, I've also talked about how I, in some ways, I'm not really into the earthly instrument kind of framework, right? And so, having, the guitar sound, wasn't initially early on my thing. With this track, it just transcends any considerations like that. How the guitar is used with just this simple motif is phenomenal. The rhythm, the drive of this track, and the voices and the samples. I still have no idea where the samples come from. Marcus and Jan both stated, they referred to a lot of sample CDs. I will be able to tell you once we get to the track Thing what orchestral music is used in that one. So I have no idea where the chorus comes from. I have no idea where the spoken sample comes from. There's a few interesting things. We can hear little bits of words, and he mentions that the eagle has landed, which was something from the astronauts, but this is not that speech, and there's quite a bit of swearing in it as well. So it's not the official NASA speaking. So I'm really curious what it is, but I do not know. Another thing that's interesting about this release, by the way, is it was originally intended, it seems, to be issued on Blue Room with a remix of the track by Montauk P on the other side. So some promos circulated, and that might have been what Jez got in 97. So later in 97 into 98. When it did eventually come out, it came out and it was with a very different kind of label. If you look at it, it's, there's no Blue Room logo. It's just blue. And it has Traveling at the Speed of Thought on one side. And then Delta Skelter on the other side. I've got a story about that. It also involves the Solstice fellas. So when I got that one, so be happy to share that later once we get to that track, which we will. But for now, this phenomenal track, which is for me just one of the it's a really defining track from this period. For me personally, just that whole story of the narrative of going to Japan and hearing Steph play this and just looking for months to get it and getting it at the 11th hour, and then the whole adventure of having it and knowing how prized it was. And it's not just that it was prized; it's because it's also an incredible track. This was just all such a delightful adventure. So we are going to listen now to the incredible track by the Delta, Traveling at the Speed of Thought. Listen to the beautiful note progression of these voices. Well, there's this kind of other, synthesized, little growling sound there. Then the spoken voice starts to come in shortly. Yes, indeed. And I just love the distortion with it, like you're tuning in, again, that sort of tuning into an alien radio station. And then these sounds, and then there we go. And then back for us. funky rhythm. And then the sample. Just a very simple 2-note, and then again a kind of call and answer. Notice what's happening on all the frequencies. A little chorus answer. Here, all of these sounds just sort of placed throughout the whole sonic fabric. And that sort of whiny, anguished sort of sound coming back. Between the guitar and the voice. And the tension building up here. It ramps up. Gets them every time. Upper sounds, that choral exclamation occasionally coming through. So much momentum. And then now we enter a beautiful middle section. And I just love the sort of, the angelic, peaceful, calm nature of these voices together with the intensity of the guitar. I mean, really are like just traveling through this hyperspace, alternate dimension. Helicopter noises. Again, more of this spoken sound. I just cannot understand what the guy is saying. There's a few choice words that come out very clearly. Brilliant storytelling, right? The way that whole middle section led to that, break, and then all the big stuff comes back. Those chord progressions, just absolutely gorgeous. Then the excitement building up. There's that coming in as well. Again, just that simplicity of the two-note pattern. The articulation, also notice, that's smoother, and then this one's broken up when it comes back. Only just noticed it now on that last round listening. Isn't it amazing? 30 years later, these tracks can still reveal details. Starting to unwind. Notice some other sounds and noise coming in, spoken samples. And that was sort of whiny, twangy guitar sound. I mean, really. What a track. I just love that it ends with a thank you. I mean, that was certainly my attitude with, all the experiences that I had that led me to, first hearing this and finally getting it and so on, and then playing it at this incredible, first at that incredible outdoor event, which, by the way, the downpour started when I started this track, and it cleared when the track ended, and there was a rainbow over the city. So there is video footage of that particular part. Unfortunately, I know there's a tape out there, might be in someone's storage locker. But in any case, wow. The track still rocks. I played it last year in Goa at the Ver event, exploring the roots. Still explodes, and it's an all-time classic. Of course, it sounds different now because everybody's heard it how many times. But for me, when I play it, I really hold and remember the whole experience and the whole, the gratitude and the magic that was part of, really back then. I felt, the continual ongoing revealing of the evolution of this musical language and our experience of it and the exploration of consciousness through these events, and how we were, felt like writing history, which we are in every moment anyway. We're just kind of, this gave a framework where it was that much more palpable, and what a great title, isn't it? Traveling at the speed of thought, not light. What would it be like if, we did operate like that? One wonders. In any case, delighted to be back in the saddle here with you. Episode 101, devoted to one of my all-time favorite tracks, and the first, not in sequence, right, that I came across, but the first of the ones that, the many great tracks that I came across in the 97 to 98 season of this incredible musical scene. So I will sign off here to leave you with the full track without my commentary. I'm Mark DJ Solitaire, wrapping up episode 101 of Retro Goa Explorations and leaving you with the unbelievable classic by the Delta, Traveling at the Speed of Thought.